Hey, everybody. Welcome into Silver Lining Podcast. I'm Adam. Over there is Rex, Uncle Rex, Grunkle Rex. We're excited to have you guys on today, the podcast. And we're excited about this podcast for a few reasons. We're going to let you know what direction and what we're doing on this podcast. And we're excited about the future of our group, our community, our optimists, all those things. And it starts with healing. And I know our family has been in the true crime world because of the story that's gone out. And Rex and I have adopted all that. And as we told you before, Rex and I aren't true crimers where we get into details and know a lot about all the true crime world out there. But unfortunately, our family is known for this true crime situation. And Rex and I started this venture, which, by the way, I think we're coming up on a year of this podcast. And, starting from the very beginning, Rex and I came on here, and people that have seen us all the way through. And by the way, thank you for the comments on YouTube and the emails you're sending us and the Facebook messages, that some of you have been with us since day one, and you've seen every single episode. And to me, I'm amazed by that, and I'm grateful for it. Those are all, really great things. But the first 10 episodes where Rex and I were on here talking about our feelings, our perspective, how, the whole thing with Lori and Chet. And with that, a lot of people have made their own thoughts and their own, what's the word I'm looking for? Rex, help me with my word. Inclusions of how Rex and I have healed over this. Because when you look back at the first 10 episodes, a lot of people said, I can see it in Adam's eyes, the way he's talking, where he's at now to where he was on the first 10 episodes, which is a lot of healing. And so people have seen Rex and I heal. Rex and I have seen so many people on here heal as well, or heard from people that have healed from this. So this episode is going to be about focusing on healing and where we're going with that.
Very good. I'm sorry. A better word would have been observations.
Now, yes. And it wasn't coming to me. I don't know what happened.
You're getting old. And that'll happen more and more often.
All right.
And we're very excited because last week, our last live was, we talked about some wild speculations. We're done with that now. We will talk about the cases when they're on again, but we're in between cases. We've noticed in the true crime world, some of our mentors, some of our friends in the true crime world, they're going with all the discussions that they want to go with. That's just not the direction for us. We aren't going to keep the true crime story going and talk about Chad a lot and Lori a lot, and because we have a purpose here in this community, and we are excited about the purpose because it has helped Adam and I personally so much. It has helped so many of you, and we think it can help many, many more people. And so we're going to continue with the healing topic. And we've talked plenty about our own healing, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we want the focus now to be on your healing, on the optimist's healing. We've had several optimists on in the past with very compelling stories. Adam, do you remember some of them?
Yeah, so over the year that we've done this podcast, we've had several guests on and other optimists. We started off with Charlene. And Charlene was brave enough to send us a message and talk about her situation. And she felt comfortable enough. Now, Rex and I have talked about podcast to be what's called the safe zone. And we've talked about this where we want people to feel safe when they come here. You can tell anything to anybody and should feel like you should be loved, not judged, and you should be able to express yourself and get some kind of support from either us or other optimists. And that's really where we want to go. And so when Charlene reached out and was just telling her story, and I reached out and I said, hey, I think that if you tell your story on our podcast, I feel like your story, other people can relate to it, and then also maybe help with their healing. And that was just a hunch. I went with my intuition. I went with my conscience. Rex probably was proud of me for doing that, because Rex preaches, go with your intuition and your conscience. So we had her on. After we had her on, she told her story. After that, she told me that she felt great about telling her story. She felt better, almost a relief, which Rex and I both have experienced being on here, talking about our situation. It's been a relief. And with that, several of you optimists had sent us messages about Charlene's story, and it affected you in a way to where you wanted to tell her how much you loved her and you're there for her, which is what this is. Our podcast is a safe zone and a support zone and a love zone. And then we went to Denise, and we had to do a two-parter with Denise, Rex.
Mm-hmm. I remember that because we were keeping the podcast at half an hour, and so we needed to at that time, and we stopped at half an hour, so we did the 2 parts. But then after that, we said, hey, when people are telling a compelling story, let's let them go.
Yeah.
Within certain parameters. We can't just let someone go without parameters, but very compelling stories. People are very brave to come on in public, on the internet, tell their story. I'm glad they feel like this is a safe place. What we want more than anything, especially now going forward, is what our professional friends have told us, because Adam and I will never pretend to be therapists, never pretend to have that profession, that expertise, those skills. But we've been told and we've bought into, people need a safe place and they need to connect. And boy, has this been that, and we want to just accelerate that and make that true for anyone who participates in our community. Even those who are not in our Facebook group, they aren't commenting. The majority of y'all are listening and just doing it internally. You aren't commenting. You are very much a part of this also.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people do just, for me too, sometimes being a great listener and just listen to people saying, and you don't have to say anything. You can learn and heal from just listening and moving on with your life and all those things. So again, we're going to talk about different ways that people heal, how we've dealt with how we've healed. So Denise's story was super compelling. I remember crying and tearing up during that. Then we had Trish on, who talked about, going to that moment of suicide. We've had Jane on, who had all those things happen to her. Jane actually published our book for us. We've had the guys on from Other Side Academy, both the staff and the members there. Very compelling. A lot of comments of those people that were just like touched by their stories, how humble a lot of people are by coming in on the podcast and talking about things that happened to them. We talked to Ben and Alice, who have been open about their situation. I've had my friend Craig Shoemaker come on to talk about how his dad was a cult leader and his wife left him to be on a cult, struggles and pain that he deals with, and he uses laughter as his ammo for his healing. We've had Dr. Denham on, who's actually did a live session with me since I don't have a therapist. Rex wouldn't let it go.
An impromptu live session.
Yes, it just happened. And I was going, I don't want to take up everybody's time with this, Rex. Like, are you kidding? We're going to keep this going. I'm like, no, Rex, this is supposed to be private. But there's been so many people that have come on our show and afterwards have said, I'm so glad I did that. I feel like a ton of bricks were lifted off of me. And all the support that they then receive from you guys, optimists, by comments or just, giving support or love or whatever it is. So this is the focus now. And Rex and I would love to talk to more optimists. There's so many people listening right now. And as Rex has said before, nobody is spared. Everybody in their life have to go through something very hard. Could be traumatic, could be dramatic, could be PTSD, I mean, there's several things that can happen to you in your life that sometimes talking about it and other people can relate to it. You can then get comments and maybe even support, or maybe even other ideas that have helped other people may help you. And so with Rex and I in our healing journey, there's been several things that have been said on podcasts that I was like, I never even thought about that, but I'm going to try that because that resonates with me.
So what we're going to do is we're going to have optimists on a lot, but we want more than just their stories. See, in the past, we haven't given the optimists any parameters because we don't want to restrict their story, and we still don't want to, but we do want to hear, along with their stories, along with the tragedy or the trauma, whatever they experience, we want to hear about their healing. And since healing is so individual, I, for example, firmly believe that the first and most important step in any healing is to access your own internal guiding system, your own conscience, and let your conscience guide your healing, because your path will be unique in healing. And that is why not everyone sees a therapist. And some people think you should, some people think you shouldn't. Some people talk, some people don't talk. Some people come on a podcast, others would never do that. Everyone's path is going to be so individual. You can't rely on, you don't need to rely on anyone else when you have your own internal guidance system that will guide you. It will lead you to the right people. It'll lead you to the right circumstances. It'll give you guidance on when you should seek out a therapist, who you should seek out. That is a divine part of you that is available for direction. We want to hear about that. Adam and I haven't talked a lot about that in our own stories, which we'll do now, but that's what we want to hear from our optimists going forward. Not only the tragedies they faced, but how did they decide that they would heal? Or had they decided? Maybe they're still struggling with it. We want to hear that because this community is wonderful. And we know other people will respond. They'll be supportive. They'll give ideas. They'll share their experiences in Facebook or in comments. And so we want to generate that. And we are very excited for this to be the platform that is safe, where people can connect and start or continue to heal.
Yeah. So when it comes to healing, like Rick said, everybody's got a different path. For me, obviously I've had a lot of trauma in my life. And so not knowing what to think, how to feel, what to feel, sometimes for me, just avoiding things was a mechanism for me to heal, or to at least postpone the hard facts that if I go to that place, how painful that's going to be. And so I think for a long time that I would use that mechanism of not bringing up stuff or avoiding stuff, just because the pain was too much. And we always go back to pain. At least for me, nobody likes pain. Okay. So for me, a lot of people have said, look, the first 10 episodes, I've seen a huge difference in you. I can see it in your eyes, how you talk, all those things. And a lot of it has to do with coming on this podcast and talking. A lot of it had to do with me and Rex writing a book and writing out some of my stuff. Some of it has to do with, talking. Some of it is, physical things like playing pickleball or going to the gym to work out, to release a lot of things that are inside me. So, and I think everybody's path is different. I haven't decided yet to go to a therapist, and I do get lots of messages like, a therapist has really, really helped me, and I really think you need to go to a therapist. And I'm not against therapists at all. I just don't think at this point, my conscience isn't telling me you need to go see a therapist yet. And some of you may be like, well, you need to. But I don't think I'm there yet. And I've been taking my time with my healing just because I think I'm scared. think that I don't want to feel what I felt for the last 4 years. And when I think of, and, for me, when I set goals, I always set goals super high. So my healing goal is to be the same way I was before the Lori and Chad situation. Now, I'm not going to have that same situation with my relationships with my family members. I don't think that is ever going to go back to the same. But I'm talking about my personal, how I deal with things on a daily basis. I used to be super easygoing, fun, laughed at everything, just didn't take a lot of things in that would, be hurtful. And I really enjoyed living my life, looking at just, trying to be positive about everything. And I'm not that same person. And I haven't been that same person since all this has happened. So I think for me, when I'm saying, if I could ever say that I'm healed, I would say that I actually got back to where I was before this happened. And I don't even know if that's possible. So I don't know if I'm ever going to be completely healed. So I got a lot of questions with that too, Rex.
And you'll need to find a way to work through them like everyone has to. It's an individual path. I started being conscious of healing because of our optimists saying, you need to heal. I heard it enough. I said, well, I need to at least be an example and to give it some effort. Because I felt, I felt a lot of emotions, but I didn't feel the kind of damage that I thought I'd need healing from. And so one of the first things I did in my own journey is say, what does healing look like? People talk about healing. I started asking. And when I couldn't find answers, and now I'm uncomfortable about, well, how do I even know if I need healing? I don't know what healing is. I don't know what the problems might be. That's when I decided to talk to professionals about it and open up to them and find out. And I found out, yeah, there's some work I can do. See, the problem is I was comparing myself to other people, especially those in our family, those around us. Some are deeply, I don't even know the right word, scarred.
Yeah. Scarred's good.
And I'm thinking, no, I'm not that bad off. I'm okay. But once I got into it, there are several places and the therapist helped me see that, yeah, I could stand some healing there. Like, for example, when I heard Lori's, it bothers me even thinking about it now. I get a visceral reaction. But when I heard her statement, with her sentencing, I was so angry. It was the same anger I had when I heard in court what they did to the children, which information I had previously avoided. And it was like a rage. And people told me, and I think I've heard this for years, rage is just covering up something else, some other emotion, some other part of you. And that's where I did some of my work. And it was very helpful for me. And finally doing the work and with professionals and work on my own, the most work I do is here processing with Lisa, my wife. That's a safe place. Processing with my children about this, with other people. That's where my work happens. It's not just with the professionals. It's so many people. But I feel each time, each person has different value for me processing with them. And I'm careful about what they need too. For example, my daughters, they weren't into processing all the time. Sometimes they wanted to talk about everything. Sometimes they wanted to talk about nothing. And other times it was in between. So you really have to be guided through this. It's like tiptoeing through a minefield.
Right.
Because you're involving other people too. And they may not want your stuff, and you may not want to hear their stuff. You really have to make it a conscious effort. So I'm learning about all that. I defined healing for myself, and I found when I did, I believe we all need to define healing for ourselves. There's not an accepted medical definition of healing from a tragedy that I'm aware of, maybe Ben or Denham or other professionals. We have many professionals that are optimists. They can give us more insight on that. But healing for me is that the trauma, whatever pain is associated with it, whatever residual is associated with it, isn't going to stop me from anything I will do in normal life. And I realized there were things I wasn't doing at the time. And so now I can recognize healing and I can measure, I don't know if measure is the right word, but I can recognize healing. And I can feel that, okay, I'm healed in this area of my life. Before, I wouldn't do it. Like Adam, you've talked about not being able to get out of bed. That's an example of something that the pain is causing me to stop doing in my life, or to keep me from doing in my life. That's something I would want to be healed from if that were happening. Well, there are several areas like that in my life. I said, I want to be able to go on. Nothing in my healing has to do with not feeling pain, not feeling emotion, not feeling sadness. None of that. I don't need to be healed from that. I want to keep those emotions in my life.
Yeah.
So my definition of healing is very individualized. I think everyone's is.
Yeah, because for me, it's like I think I'm shooting for the stars though with what my expectations are when it comes to healing. Because for me, to go back to where I was before this tragedy happens, as far as my personality and how I feel and like the easiness that I have around people now, like, I've had other optimists send me messages going, is it awkward going to, your family's house, or is it awkward, being in a situation like, wherever it is. And because some people say that they can't go to their family member's house because they feel awkward about it. There's some tension or there's whatever. And, part of my healing is actually, stepping forward. Like for me and my mom and my sister, going back, my mom and dad, my sister, being in front of them and talking to them and trying to heal and trying to understand the reasons they did things and listening. And then again, there's been times where I was at my mom's house and I would be furious or in a rage, but, and I just let those things known and I let it out there. And so maybe that was part of my healing. And so I think like you said, for everybody, what does healing look like for you, and how do you get there? What is your conscience telling you need to do? If my conscience tells me, if I get invited to a situation where I don't feel like I'm going to feel comfortable at, I will avoid it and I will not go. I guess to a point. But anyways, my point is, as we go forward with this podcast and we invite optimists to come on and if they want to share their story and then also share what has happened to you since this trauma has happened in your life. Have you completely healed, or do you feel like you've completely healed? Or what have you done to get to this point of healing? And what does that even look like? And because we've already started this, with some of our other optimists, and we've asked questions, we've heard a lot of people say, singing or music is part of my healing process, or everybody has something different that they can bring to the table. But every time somebody comes on our podcast and talks, I learn something, and I either want to try that, or, well, that's great for them, but I don't think that's for me, which is a process of your situation of healing. But I think the more information that we get, and I love information, I love learning and growing, the more information that we get, the more process we have in our brain of what we can actually do or want to try or don't want to try. But I like that we have that opportunity on this podcast. While we're doing that, we know it's safe. We know we're not being judged. We know that we're being loved. We know that we're being supported. And so with that kind of a community, I feel like this is a no-brainer way to go for the process of healing.
And so we're so concerned about our community because this is that safe place. And we know recently going out, with the increase and then increase with Chad's trial, And then as it shut down, people are just, I think there's a shift in the true crime world, Adam, that people are just, now without Chad's trial, the people that are so locked in on it don't know quite what to do. And I think we've gotten some of those people in once in a while, the comments are a little more snarky than they have been in the past.
Yeah.
We're going to deal with that and not let that detract us from the healing path we're on. And when I say deal with it, mostly ignore that, because most people won't stick around. They don't want to stick around and be healed. They want to do battle. And if they do want to stick around and be healed, this is the place for there. So we want in here. And so maybe we'll be a little more patient than we are sometimes. Our patience with that kind of ebbs and flows, doesn't it?
Mine more than yours.
No, I think both of them pretty much. So we'll continue very consciously recognizing that we want what the majority of optimists feel is a safe place, so it can be a place to connect to, because I think that's been magic. So many people have connected in our community, even those who haven't commented or joined the Facebook group. I think they've connected because they keep listening and keep coming back. That's the connection. We recognize that they're there. We don't always know who they are. Once in a while, y'all will talk to us and you'll make a comment. This is my first comment. I've listened to you from the beginning. We're not hearing that, and we know you're out there.
Yeah.
So that will continue being part of our community, a very important part.
And like Rex said, this is all different times for different people. Somebody could be listening to our podcast for a whole year and never make a comment. And then they may listen to an optimist tell their story about, what they've been through. And that may be the one that they're like, oh my gosh, that I relate to that. I have passion about that. I want to talk about that person, or I want to comment on that person, or whatever that is. It could be at different times all the time. But as long as we're going and we're focusing our podcast on healing, love, support, all those things that are positive things in life, I feel like we can't go wrong. And like Rex said, there's some people are just true crimers, and even the true crimers that are in and out of our podcast, sometimes watch us, sometimes don't. At some point in their life, they have trauma, and maybe they don't want to get involved in it because they're not ready to deal with their trauma. And that's fine too. There's a lot of people that have different circumstances in their lives, why they would want to be part of this podcast or why they wouldn't want to be part of this podcast. But I feel like Rex and I have a good focus on where we want this to go and how this can help other people. So this is, we're excited, like I said, about our podcast, about our community, and hopefully you guys are too.
So stick with us if you want healing, or you want to just observe healing, or just be a part of the attempt of healing. We can't guarantee any healing. And again, the healing's not going to come from us. It's going to come from this community, our shared experience. So stick with us. We'll continue doing lives. We may not do them every week. We'll probably do one this weekend because we want to keep promoting this direction we're going.
Uh-huh.
So Adam, 4:30 Mountain Time on Saturday has been our attempted standard time.
I'm in.
So we'll probably continue this Saturday, and then we'll keep you posted on what else is coming. We look forward to the journey with you.